planting day. I've been hardening off all of our seedlings for the last week or so, and it's finally time to plant. So we did a huge prep day in the garden yesterday, spent like 6 hours weeding, and now we got to get plants in the ground. So very exciting. It's gonna be a lot of work. We have a lot of plants to plant. So I'm a little nervous about that, but we're just gonna get started. Here are all the seedlings we have to plant. I started all of these from seed and I've had them hardening off for the last week or so. Hardening off is just a process where you gradually introduce your baby plants to the outdoors so that they don't shock when they're planted. All right, we are starting with tomatoes. I'm planting these on the tomato trellis that we built last year. This is how they're looking. They're actually looking really good. And before I go ahead and plant, I'm gonna remove the lower sets of leaves from these seedlings. This will keep those leaves off of the soil, which helps prevent disease risk. It will also let me plant them a little bit deeper. With tomatoes, they will grow roots all along the stem. So those little hairs on the stem will turn into roots if I bury them deeper, allowing the plant to grow a bigger root system, which will hopefully keep these plants healthier. Speaking of healthy plants, before I plant these, I'm gonna go grab some compost. We have beautiful compost from last year's garden and kitchen waste. I'm gonna dip these plants in a little compost slurry before I plant them. This is supposed to help give that soil microbiome a jump start to produce healthy roots and healthy plants. This is something I saw Blossom and Branch do, so I'm gonna trial it this year and see how it goes. Now that I've got all my supplies, I can get planting. I'm going to be planting each of these plants right next to a string on our tomato trellis, which we built last year. This style of trellis, you wind the plant around the string and it keeps it stable. Once I've dug my hole, I'm just loosening up the roots a little bit if they're tight at all and picking off any of those lower leaves that might touch the soil. A quick dip in the compost, making sure all those roots are soaked, and then I'm popping it in the ground, tucking it in, and that's it. Now onto the overwhelming part, figuring out where to put all the rest of these plants. I'm starting by placing seedlings around the garden where I think I'm going to plant them, working with the easiest items first. Greg also came over and really helped me with this because I was feeling super overwhelmed. He helped me talk through everything and place the definite stuff first, like the tomatoes and the loofah that need a trellis, and then fill in everything else bit by bit after that. In past years, I've planned a lot more obsessively before planting out, but this year I just really didn't have the time to do all of that, and we're in a little bit of a weird year because we have a big project coming up and we're getting rid of some of these beds, so we're doing the best with what we've got this year. We're uncovering our tunnel to plant because half of this space is still empty and doesn't have plants in it. We've got garlic down on the end, but we still have a lot more room in here. So I'm using this space to prioritize plants that the bunnies really like and that I historically have had more pest issues with. Primarily, I'm putting Craspedia and Holypterum in here because those are the two that have gotten eaten the most, either by bugs or by bunnies, and the tunnel will help protect them from that. While we have the tunnel open, we're doing a little bit of weeding in the garlic, and then it's time to cover it back up and seal it all up. Now we're planting our loofah plants. These look really sad because they were sitting out in the sun before they were planted, but they will totally rebound. We are planting them in the same spot we put them last year using this trellis because it worked really well.
Do you recall when we were young, running from all things at once without thinking twice? And I knew it would catch up and that we would be the ones left behind. The stories I've been told, they never seem to leave my mind. And this road that I am on, I gotta stay here for some time. Time is gone and I grew up. I somehow made it through without losing sight. And I still wonder where you are and if you found a way out from the dark. The stories I've been told, they never seem to leave my mind. On this road that I am on, I gotta stay here for some time. Bruises, they come and they go.
This is another spot where I've planted things that we struggle to keep away from the bunnies. Greg built this little contraption out of scrap wood and wire last year, and it really helps to protect these plants while they're young so they don't just get eaten to the ground over and over because the bunnies really like them.
If you found a way out, come seek me out.
Finally, we're planting tons of eucalyptus. I planted a bunch in this little bed we have on the side of the studio, and then the rest of it I'm going to put in the back in kind of the no man's land growing area that we have in the very back of the yard. This is the final spot to plant up in our yard. This spot back here is kind of random. We used to have beds here a couple years ago, and we ended up getting rid of them when we made our big main veggie garden space. But this past year, we had a bunch of trees removed and all of the debris was placed here for months, so it killed back any of the grass that had grown again here. And it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of a no man's land space. It's not really lawn anymore. It's not super planned with beds or anything, but we do need extra square footage for growing this year. So I'm just gonna use it, and I'm gonna place some random flowers in here. This is mostly eucalyptus. And then I've also planted some gomphrena and some feverfew in here as well. So eventually I want to make this look nicer. I don't want this to look like this forever, but while we're down to dirt here and while we're short on growing space elsewhere until we finish other projects, I'm going to use this year for some extra growing space. After I've planted everything, I'm just going along and putting compost on the rows of plants that I planted for two reasons. One, to give them a little extra nutrients because this soil is not that great. Two, to mark the rows. This is all covered in dried leaves and it can be kind of hard to see where the plants are planted, especially when they're really tiny. So this will also help me keep track of where the plants are for watering and weeding and just walking through this space. So that's officially everything planted. I did come back through a few weeks later and cover these beds with more compost. Again, we want to keep that soil healthy, keep the soil covered. It also, I think, just makes everything look a little bit nicer and makes the edges of the beds versus the pathways a little bit more apparent when you're walking through the garden. Thanks for spending time in the garden with me, friends. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button to see my 2025 garden grow. Until next time.